Welcome to this week's Sadakayan program organized by Quantum Meditation Society London, where every week we draw on the timeless teachings of the spiritual masters from various traditions or scientific insights to learn about something that can enrich the lives of enrich the lives of ourselves and our loved ones. You may remember we've been talking about, last week we were talking about overthinking. The week before that, we talked about rage. And when we talk about the reasons why we overthink or we experience rage, we often talk about our experiences, how we've interpreted different experiences of our life, trauma. We talk about pent up, suppressed emotions, and lots of things like that. And when we talk about how to overcome these challenges, we talk about meditation, learning to release the trauma, release suppressed emotions through various different types of meditations. One thing that we talk about and we need to re-emphasize often is that the systems in the human body or within the human self, not the human body, just within a human, are interconnected. Until not too long ago, we treated the body and the mind as separate, and when we were talking about physical diseases, we were mainly attributing them to physical causes, dietary causes. When we were talking about the realm of the psyche, when we were talking about mental illnesses, we were mostly talking about maybe mental causes and mental ways of addressing them. The more science learns about how things work within us, the more we are realizing how interconnected everything really is. For example, you may remember that in the context of experiencing motivation, in the context of experiencing well-being, we often talk about different neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, but which are physical things, number one, but also those things do not exist in isolation within ourselves, within our bodies. Those things that give rise to intangible feelings within us work within a very sophisticated, nuanced, complex system within our bodies. Serotonin or dopamine, for example, cannot be created or absorbed by our body if certain essential nutrients are not present. If you're deficient in certain vitamins or certain minerals, then the serotonin system in your body will not work properly. So what we're doing today is we are looking at five common, very, very, very common deficiencies. These deficiencies uh, 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 are so widespread that in some cases, maybe 50% of the world population um, uh, are deficient in a certain vitamin or mineral. Uh, so they're super widespread, but at the same time, they're super, super, super essential for our physical and mental well-being, especially mental well-being. And I wanted to talk about this connection between nutrition and nutritional deficiency and mental wellness, because when I was growing up, obviously I learned about different vitamins and minerals in school, but I learned about them mostly in the context of um, how their lack can cause physical problems. So if I'm deficient in vitamin A, then I will have problem with night vision. That's something I learned in school. But nobody in my circle had problems with night vision, you know. So those things remained very distant in my mind. I never thought of them as very relevant to my life or the life of people around me. And consequently, when I came to quantum, where along with everything, our guru, the teacher of the quantum method meditation course, talks in detail about nutrition. That was honestly the most boring part for me, because I didn't find it very relevant, because again, in my mind, these deficiencies were related to some obscure diseases that was not very relevant to me. Although a lot of people around me were were suffering from maybe low moods. People maybe had I don't know, because where I was growing up, people didn't necessarily go to a psychiatrist that often. So I don't know if people would be diagnosed with certain disorders or not, but definitely anxiety, low mood. Certain degrees of depression were common. Now that I'm more experienced, people tell me like, oh, I thought my mom had bipolar. Oh, my husband has bipolar. I have bipolar. So people who are live in societies where these things can be diagnosed, are diagnosed. From those people, I hear a lot about these things. And the digger I deep into well-being, the more I realize that um, everything is connected, as I just said a little more, but also how important nutrition is. Up even until now, if you experience these things and you go to a doctor, both the doctor and the patient expect medication. If somebody prescribes you medication for whether a physical or mental disease, then it feels very official. And this has also been proved, shown very interesting ways through research on the placebo effect. Uh, but the main point of this is like, somehow in our mind, if the doctor gives us an injection or a pill, then we take it very seriously, and we feel like, okay, now something very official and scientific has been assigned and I will get better. But a lot of times what I see around me is like, these medications have side effects that are very debilitating. I'm not against medications, but what I'm trying to say is like, everything has its place, and we as a society seem to be still undervaluing the role of lifestyle factors in these uh, for these diseases and these mental and physical states. I have to say that science has come a long way in the time I have been dealing with those things. Now there is such a thing as functional medicine, where people look at diseases holistically. There are many influencers, many doctors who are working on enlightening people about the lifestyle factors that are relevant to these diseases. But on the whole, I would say that it's still, when we find out that we have these things, we still expect medication. But study after study after study has proved that lifestyle factors, and one of which is nutrition, can have a tremendous impact on the uh, on in causing these diseases and helping people cure these diseases. There's one study, there are several studies which have shown that lifestyle factors are equally or more, maybe 1.5 or even double effective in treating depression than the most powerful antidepressant. So this is a scientific fact, and to the extent we take it that way, and we really understand to our core that these are holistic states that can be treated or prevented with uh, lifestyle factors, the more we will be able to enhance well-being in ourselves and our loved ones. So that was a sort of a longish introduction, but I absolutely wanted to emphasize that where I'm coming from in looking at these things. So having said that, here is the first nutrient that is extremely important in mental states, and that is vitamin B12. Okay, so as I said, a lot of these deficiencies are extremely widespread, and it's estimated that 40% of people are vitamin B deficient. Now, within those 40%, not everybody might be like severely deficient. Some might be more like just low and marginal, and others might be severely deficient. But if you are deficient in vitamin B12, you will suffer from fatigue. You you will your memory will suffer. You might have obsessive compulsive disorder. You might have depression. You might have anxiety. And I'm just talking about mental things here. It's also related to other physical issues as well. So when we were talking about thinking and overthinking and well-being last week, we mentioned serotonin, and we've mentioned serotonin in various contexts. Serotonin cannot be created without enough vitamin B12 in your body. So vitamin B12 factors in a very important way in the serotonin pathway in your body. So, if you if you or your loved ones seem to be depressed, or have low energy, or like they can't sort of get out of the trap of obsessively doing things, then lack of vitamin B12 might be an issue. And it's definitely been shown that people who have depression have lower vitamin B12 than people who don't. So this vitamin, which is very, very important in nerve function, is something that you want to always make sure that you are sufficient in. So just recapping, you will feel fatigue. There might if problems with, you feel like your memory has suddenly gone, is not working uh, as it used to. You are having more anxious thoughts. You're having, maybe you have panic attacks and depression and obsessive compulsive disorder. All of these have been shown to be associated with vitamin B12. Now, where does vitamin, how do you know some other symptoms like physical symptoms? Like if you have tingling of hands and feet, balance issues, those might be like also like that's, you might know that you have vitamin B deficiency if you have those symptoms like your hands and feet are kind of tingling, or suddenly you can't seem to balance yourself well. Now, the source of vitamin B12 is animal protein. Okay, so it comes from red meat. It comes from various organ meat. Okay, so it's not something that we can get from plants or vegetable. If you or somebody you know is a vegan or a vegetarian, they will need to make sure that they are getting their vitamin B12 through supplements, because they won't be able to get it through their diet. So but if you eat meat, that you want to make sure that you are eating red meat and organ meat, and other types of animal protein, in amounts that are appropriate for you. um, I want to mention here something that's very, very important, that researchers and doctors are now finding out, is that people vary in their capacity to absorb certain nutrients. Okay, so not everybody will absorb the same amount of, say, vitamin B12 from the same food. Um, and there are spiritual explanations to these as well, and we can talk about that in another episode. But because of this variation, sometimes you may be having what seems to be enough of something, but that may not be enough for you. So if you or somebody you know are really seriously ill, it's the safest way of knowing whether you are deficient in something is to go to a doctor and have yourself tested. you know you can do it through symptoms, and you can try taking supplements and see if that's working or not. But even if you're taking a lot of things, doing the right things, but it's still not helping, it can still be caused by a nutritional deficiency. And the way to know that is to go and have it tested, because your body might not be absorbing it enough, and the doctor can tell you, prescribe you maybe higher amounts, or tell you what else you need to be having, for your body to absorb. And some people, they might just need to always take extra amounts of certain vitamins or minerals, simply because their body doesn't absorb as well as other people, and that people are doing that, and people are getting amazing benefits from that, like, and not just in these things, but things like autism and other conditions. um, some people are getting amazing results from nutritional interventions. So that is vitamin B12. That is our first vitamin that anybody who feels like, oh, even though they're doing the other things right, their mental health doesn't seem to be up there, should look into. Now, the second vitamin is closely related to vitamin B12, and that is folate. So, what is folate? Folate is vitamin B9. Okay, so it's not folic acid; it's folate, and folate again is very, very important for your mental health. If you don't have enough folate, you will experience fatigue, you experience shortness of breath. Yes, physical things like you may have mouth ulcers, if you may have a lot of hair fall, but also depression and irritability, like you just feel irritated all the time, and you cannot you can't, you feel like you will just explode all the time, and you don't know why. It might be because you are low in folate. Okay, so and doctors have found out very important for depression patients is, number one, the lower you are in folate, the more severe and prolonged your depression is. Okay, so people who are experiencing very acute depression, and the depression is going on for a long time, because people's depression have bouts. It's like it goes in up and down, but it's very severe, going very long, means that there is a good possibility that you are very, very low in folate. And another very important thing is if you are low in folate, patients who are low in folate do not respond to antidepressants given by doctors. Okay, because probably like that is something again that your body needs to have to absorb whatever the antidepressants are trying to give you, to absorb or to activate, or it's somehow relevant to that to the impact of that medicine. Uh, and again, like doctors have now found out that about 30 to 40% of people have some kind of a problem with a gene called MTHFR. Okay, MTHFR, which interferes with their absorption of vitamin B9, which is folate. So so the obviously the first thing we should do is like we should look at food sources, and the food sources for folate is leafy greens, legumes, and other fortified grains. Okay, so you're no escaping having the green stuff. Okay, so leafy grains, legumes, and fortified grains. Now, if you still it's not working, uh, it might be because you are your gene this empty you are one of the 40% of people who have this issue with empty HFR. In that case, you might need to take supplements. Again, good to have tested. I personally think like once a year a checkup is a good thing, so that well what your body is doing, how the various things in the body are doing, if you can do that. But so if your body is low in folate, then you need a supplement called methylfolate. That's the best way to get it. And actually it's something that sometimes doctors use as a natural antidepressant. It's a natural thing. It's not like synthetically created, but doctors also, because it works so well, doctors sometimes use it as an antidepressant, but it's actually just a supplement of this particular vitamin, which is folate. Now, moving on to something that probably last time I checked, I had, probably you have, and a lot of people have. 1 billion people in the world have this. Okay, and that is vitamin D deficiency. We know of vitamin D. We all know that that's the vitamin that our skin produces when we're in the sunlight, right? But what now the various international organizations dealing with public health and well-being, what the estimate is about 1 billion people in the world are deficient in vitamin D. In the US, it's like they say about 41% are deficient in vitamin D. But here's something of vitamin D. There is a lot of variation in the races, in various races, and vitamin D deficiency. It probably has something to do with our skins, and if we're probably the darker the skin, the more we are used to be in sunnier climates. So we are used to getting maybe abundant amounts of sunlight, so our skins don't produce as much vitamin D from sunlight as maybe somebody who has lived in a climate where there's not enough enough sunlight, so their systems have had to become very, very efficient in creating vitamin D from sunlight. So we were talking about the US, and the US, so about 41.6% they say people are vitamin D deficient. However, people of color, 82.1% of people of color are vitamin D deficient, and 69.2% of Hispanics are vitamin D deficient. So very, very widespread amongst people with darker skin. Here in the UK, vitamin D deficiency is considered to be an epidemic amongst South Asian people. So they say that, so 50% of us are severely, and severely is, this word severely is important because sometimes you're just marginally deficient. If you're just marginally deficient, it doesn't have quite as much effect on you as it would have if you were severely deficient. So 50% are severely deficient in vitamin D, and 20% are very severely deficient in vitamin D amongst the South Asian population here in the UK. So vitamin D is, as vitamin D probably is something that you need for bone health, because you need vitamin D present in your body to absorb the calcium for your bones. But vitamin D is also called the happy vitamin because you need vitamin D to create both serotonin and dopamine. Okay, so without enough vitamin D present in your body, serotonin and dopamine will not be able to be created and do whatever they do in your body properly. So it's very, very important that you have enough vitamin D. Vitamin, people who are, like sometimes people have this sense of impending doom, like something really bad is about to happen. And again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning of today's episode, is that, we just think of those things as something belonging in the realm of the mind, the realm of the psyche. But vitamin D deficiency can create that sense of impending doom within you. It will. It's very important for immunity and a host of physical things that I'm not going into today. But of course, it's also related to depression, and also something very important for maybe people living here. We're here in the UK. The number one cause of death is dementia, and it's been shown that vitamin D deficiency is common in people with dementia. So vitamin D, and again, another thing is, it's very people who live in this sort of places with long, dark winters know of this thing called seasonal affective disorder, which basically means that you feel depressed, or you are depressed during the winter months, during the dark season. And the cause of that is also, of course, not having enough vitamin D. So in many countries, including where I live, it's all the public health organizations recommend people to take vitamin D every day, which we in our family do. When I first came here with little children, I was told, like, you have to. Yeah, I thought I was bound by law, which for the research for today, I couldn't find any confirmation of that. but it's definitely recommended that if you have children, infants, toddlers, you give them vitamin D every day. And in our family, we have vitamin D every single day in the morning. Like my first thing when I wake up is my husband prepares this very nice mug of warm water, in which one of the things he puts in it is vitamin D and some other very nice stuff. And it's a very nice way to start the morning. It always makes me feel very good. Um, so it's very important that you do that, but especially if you are somebody with darker skin, it's important to realize that the recommended amounts like 400 IU stands for international units, or 600 IU may not be enough for you, and in my life, whenever I've had myself, I've gone through a checkup, I always come out with vitamin D deficiency, and then I take a little bit. People give me, and then I thought, oh, it's been dealt with. But then a few months later, when I have a checkup, I again see that, oh, I'm again deficient in vitamin D. I'm sorry. So in my life, I've had at points at pregnancies and stuff had to take way more than the recommended amount. Then with the doctor's advice, like that at one point the doctor said, get those like um, ampoules that are used for injection that has 10,000 IU of vitamin D. Break it and put it in a glass of warm milk and drink it. So I did that. So and I know some of my friends, they have to do that. Like they need way more than what you will get as the first recommendation from the internet, from a Google research. And the thing about vitamin D is it's very, very difficult to get vitamin D toxicity, meaning like, oh, you had just had so much, there's too much in you, and then it's now bad for you. It usually doesn't happen. You do, however, need to make sure that you have sufficient amounts of other vitamins and minerals um, uh, uh, in your body when you're taking added amounts of vitamin D, because again, because the things are so interrelated in our body, uh, you need other vitamins and minerals to absorb the vitamin D you're taking. And what will happen is you will get deficient, you may get deficient in other vitamins and minerals if you're taking like exorbitant amounts of vitamin D, but you are not paying attention to the other vitamins and minerals in your body. So if you're not taking vitamin D, you should be taking, especially if you're in one of those colder, darker countries, you should be taking every day. It should be pretty safe to take more than the 400 to 600 IU, which is what's the recommended amount of the wider population. It might be very normal for you to have to take 10,000 or up to 20,000 IU. Um, and again, like this thing about like some people not being able to absorb one vitamin as well as other people applies to all vitamins and nutrients, including vitamin D, with the dark skinned people being a case in point. So it's always good to find out where you are through checkups and things like that. And if you have to take um, uh, a lot, then you really should look at some other vitamins and minerals that you need to have in good amounts in your body to make sure that this additional amounts of vitamin D is not creating any imbalance in your body. Okay, so and then one last thing about vitamin D is that in addition to sunlight, you can like fatty fish and fortified cereal can also give you vitamin D. Okay, so we were talking about like what you need to take with vitamin, what you need to have in your body to absorb vitamin D. So that goes very nicely with the next deficiency I want to talk about in terms of being very, very important for your mental health and your general sense of calm and well-being, and that is magnesium. Okay, so again, like huge proportions of the population are deficient in magnesium. Okay, so um, I think about 40%, to the best of my what I remember, is of people are deficient in magnesium. Magnesium is very important for the absorption of vitamin D. Magnesium is very, very important for this sense of calm that you feel before you go to sleep. Um, it's related to the production of melatonin in our body, which is related to very important in our sleep cycle. So a lot of people who have problem with sleep may may be deficient in magnesium, and a lot of those people experience improvements in their sleep patterns when they start taking magnesium supplements, or let's not go to supplements at first. First, go to natural sources, and then if you find out you're deficient, you go to supplements, right? So, but they experience improvements when they improve the balance of magnesium in their body. Let's put it that way. So again, the lack of magnesium will cause chronic fatigue. It will cause sleep disturbances. It might give you muscle cramps. So if you are having a lot of muscle cramps, that might be due to low magnesium in your body. And then, of course, it also affects blood sugar and bone health. But today we're not going too much into the physical things. We're talking more about the mental effects of these things. So I just want to remind you that sleep is extremely important for all sorts of things, including mood and general feeling of well-being, and whether you have depression, anxiety or not. It's very people who have depression have disturbance to the extent that it's almost like if you can cure the disturbance, you can cure the depression. That's just they exist together to such an extent. So anything that impacts your sleep will impact your general well-being, will impact everything about you, including your brain function, your memory, and your mood, and whether you were overeating or not, and all sorts of things. So because of that, it's very important to have magnesium, because it is involved in nerve function. It helps to absorb the vitamin D in your body, and it is very integral to your sleep cycle. So sources of magnesium use nuts, seeds, whole grains, and leafy greens. All right, so let's move on to the last one. Again, one from the B vitamin group, that is thiamine. Okay, so it's not that there are other vitamins or minerals that are not important for you, but I picked some that are super common and which keep on coming up in all the whenever experts talk about mental health and nutrition. Okay, so vitamin B12, folate, D3, magnesium, and then the last one I want to touch upon is thiamine, which is vitamin B1. So I was just like, I just learned about this report where one patient, a lady in her 50s, she had cancer and she was going through chemotherapy. Um, she became suicidal. Okay, so she started experiencing a lot of adverse mental health symptoms, mental and she became suicidal, and she actually acted upon it. And then within 1 hour of giving her thiamine injection intravenously, her suicidal ideation just disappeared. Like it just didn't occur to her anymore. Like that thing was gone, along with improvements in a range of other issues. So if you do not have enough thiamine, you will experience anxiety. You will also be highly irritable. You'll probably be like, if again, when you're like, oh, you just can't seem to be able to feel calm and content. You're just irritable all the time. One of the causes for that can be thiamine. If you feel like a nervous energy all the time, like tense and nervous, that you can't seem to shake off, can't seem to release, that might be caused by thiamine deficiency. Now, how does thiamine deficiency occur? It occurs by overconsumption of refined carbohydrate. Okay, if you're eating too much of like white rice, pasta, pizza, like white dough, like things made of like white flour, that will disrupt the balance of thiamine in your body. Okay, so the first thing to look at, if you suspect that you have thiamine deficiency, is to look at your consumption of refined carbohydrates. I mean, refined carbohydrates are really, really, really bad for you anyway, and you should really just cut down on them, and try to switch as much to unprocessed whole foods as you can. Uh, but it is especially bad because it's also a cause of vitamin B1 deficiency. That's vitamin deficiency. And again, refined carbohydrates are you know like sugar basically. So it's something that you should something that it would be wise to be quite careful about. So that was our vitamin deficiencies for today. Again, if you learn about these things, know about the symptoms, if you feel like it, first always go through the food sources. That might be enough. If it's not, then you can take supplements. Some supplements are safe, and you don't necessarily need to make sure that before you take them. But when you take supplements, another thing is try to take healthy supplements, because a lot of supplements have fillers, this, that, and they're not all supplements are the same. The safest way is to have yourself checked and see if you're actually deficient in something or not. And then if you are, then take the healthy, safe supplements. So that is it for today. Again, let me move on to the meditation. And I want to tell those of you who are listening to us via YouTube, I will play the self-healing meditation today, but you can actually practice it anytime you want through the link in the explanation of today's video. All right, let me move on to today's meditation, which is self-healing.